Alright everyone, it's time for Old Man Guido story time. So this video is about the peptide known as BPC157. And the title of this video is not clickbait. I wish it was. But this peptide quite literally saved my life. And that's no joke. So I'm nearly 40 right now. And for the first 30 years of my life, I had an easy life. I worked out hard, but I lived half legal life, half not legal life. Came bit me in the ass at the age of 30, and I went and did my time. And when I got out, I had to make a hard decision because they tried to give me life in prison. First time getting in real trouble. So, well, they ain't playing fair by the rules. I got to switch things up. So I go legit, and I get into the only thing that I saw as a possibility, and that was masonry work, because I've always loved doing it. My father was a laborer for concrete his whole life. It's in the blood. I started helping, lay tiles when I was like 3-4 years old, and I always loved masonry work. So I didn't have many options when I went into it, and I went into it full-hearted, and I managed to make something out of it eventually. So that's not the point. The point is that during those years when I had the easy life and shit, I was killing my body chemically wise. I was working out like Ronnie Coleman style, but just not as big. But if you go through some of my videos, you'll see I didn't play around. I went heavy, little to no rest, blinders on, 2-hour workouts, just start to finish intensity level maxed out. A lot of substances, both recreational and performance enhancing. Never had any side effects long term from that, which thank the Lord for that, which is not typical when you're doing that much of anything, okay? And in the midst of this, 10 years that I was a heroin addict, I had a $600 a day habit at one point. That's how I got the potential life charges. They charged me as a drug kingpin and an organized criminal. So anyways, that's neither here nor there, but I managed to make it out of that miraculously without any physical problems. I'm blind in one eye from being born dead, and that had nothing to do with any of that, but that's really the only long-term physical ailment I've ever had, really, despite being born dead, which the doctors thought I wouldn't even be able to, have any lung capacity to do anything really physical, which, thank the Lord, once again, that was not the case. And I haven't suffered any consequences negatively. In fact, I've excelled in every single thing, because that limiting factor made it something I had to break, because I'm just defiant like that. You tell me I can't do something, or I'm not gonna do something, I'm gonna do it, even if I don't want to. It's just like I can't control that shit. But the point of this is not that. The point of this is, when I started the masonry work, I had a feel for it and some experience working for a buddy that I went to high school with, but I had to learn by trial by fire, and I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning, and I did a lot of jobs that weren't, I didn't have the right equipment for or whatnot. So, like, for example, the first big job I had was a big fence job, privacy fence job, and this was I live in upstate New York, rockiest soil ever. The lady felt so bad for me after digging. We come to find out the one line of the fence was right on top of an old irrigation ditch, and it was just full of big rocks, very tough clay soil. And I was shoveling these 3.5 feet deep, because that's our frost line. It's 36 inches up here. You got to go below it, or you're gonna have heaving fence posts. So digging it all by hand, tons of trauma to my wrists and my joints. She felt so bad after that one fence line. Literally, that one on the irrigation ditch was 1/4 of the total length. That took me longer than all the rest of the fence posts to dig, that one section. And luckily I did it last, because if I had done it first, I probably wouldn't have been able to do the rest. But she felt so bad, she bought me an auger, which I couldn't even use. To this day, I've only used it twice. I had to modify it to a bigger bit, which is a whole other story. But you can't use it on soil around here. Literally, I had this young buck that I make fun of all the time in videos, guys like that, but he's a good friend of mine. But he weighs about 100 pounds soaking wet. And I made the mistake, and I had already experienced this auger's potential for serious injury, let's just say. And I was being stupid. I was originally being smart, but as I was getting going, I hit some decent soil for the first time. So instead of having it up against my leg, supporting it, I was going loose with it, thinking, I got this. It literally almost ripped my wrist out of socket, this one. So not only did I have all that damage, the wrist got injured, which is why I had the 100-pound guy on it. I said, are you sure you got this? I should have known, but this is like my first big job, right? I had no help, 100-pound guy helped me. This auger, legit, I walked about 10 feet away, he started it up. He hit a rock, that auger spun him completely around, like a merry-go-round in the air, like picture legs in the air as the auger, my vape thing. Like this, right? Threw him about 3 feet. He rolled. The auger gets stuck on the rock and the thing and spinning like the crazy, the power head. Jostles itself loose, starts rolling towards him. I launch over that way. I grab the power head. He just freezes like I'm gonna get run over by his 10-inch auger bit on this crazy job that I didn't want to do in the first place. I'm helping out, right? So long story short, first job, my wrist was shot. Masonry work is very hard on your joints, your wrists. You need really strong forearms, which thank the Lord I was blessed with, but my wrist suffered over a period of 3 years, and that's it. 3 years. My father did this kind of stuff his whole life. I don't know how, but now he's surgeries on his nerve in his back. He's got surgery on his knees. He uses a cane. He's in his 70s. He still looks like Andre the Giant, but like Notre Dame style, like he's hunched over. It makes me very sad, but he did that for a life, man. I bitch and complain as I do about people not putting it in, but after 4 years of that, my wrist got so bad that at the doctor's office, when I go in there, the doctor straight up told me I had carpal tunnel in both wrists. I had fractured bones that weren't healed. This pinky I broke like several times. I broke it first in high school on Arthur Jones, who ended up being a big NFL guy. He literally lifted me off the ground by my pinky because my pinky got stuck in his shoulder pad. Lifted me off the ground, ripped it right out of socket, broke it, and it's never been right since. Well, that's not the only finger. Wrist, broke this one twice, broke this one once, not during that period, but it all goes in. I have no cartilage in any of my joints, my hands, or anywhere else because of MRSA that I got from this tattoo right here. I died from once. Second, or it was like the fourth time, whatever. Literally 7 diagnoses. I have horrible tendonitis and bursitis. Tendonitis in this tendon right here, and bursitis in this ligament or whatever, bone back there. To the point where that was the first time I was prescribed narcotic pain meds because of this right here. Literally felt like my tricep was being ripped off of my arm at the age of 15. That was terrible. That's when I started working out, and it luckily kind of stopped. I don't know how. I don't even know how that worked because it doesn't make any sense. But after I started working out, it literally never gave me problems again until masonry work. So from this point to my fingertips, bursitis, severe bursitis, tendonitis, carpal tunnel, several fractures in my fingers, unhealed, no cartilage in any of my joints, severe nerve damage, all my fingers. I had trigger finger and my one middle finger, which of course it was that one. It was funny as hell, honestly. That was actually kind of funny. But I woke up and I literally couldn't put my middle finger down, and it was stuck in this position, and I had to like literally force it back into position because it was just stuck like that because vibrations are horrible for everything. Okay, power tools are really bad. That's why they have anti-vibration technology. Well, grinding, demo saws, all that stuff really got my nerves bad, to the point where during this whole time, it got so bad where, this is no joke and this is not exaggeration, I literally was looking at my Husqvarna chainsaw and a shotgun, and I was going to either chop my fucking own hands and arms off and just whatever, be armless, or put a bullet right in my skull. And no joke, that was literally how bad it was, because I couldn't lay down for more than 5 minutes without the most intense pain I've ever felt in my life. Like, my hand, I had no feeling or dexterity in my fingertips. This is the other great contradiction of life, right? Couldn't feel anything, man. Could not feel nothing. I was dropping everything I was trying to pick up if it was smaller than a baseball on both hands. And if I laid down or sat down, immediately intense fire of hell from here to my fingertips, both arms, and it would last for 40-50 minutes. I got no more than 30 minutes to an hour of sleep after drinking and dosing myself into oblivion just so I could get some rest. After about a month of like no sleep, working 12 to 14 hour days still, because how am I going to afford to take any time off? So it just kept getting worse, and my doctor was like, surgery is maybe work, but you got like a quarter of a chance, like 25% chance it's going to work. The rest is, it might improve it, who knows, but you're going to be out of work 6 months. I can't afford that. Went through several medications that she put me on, everything, because I have arthritis in my joints too, rheumatoid arthritis. 7 diagnoses, alright? So she is basically like, we just gotta manage the pain. I'm like, you can't put me on opiates. I love them. They are my Satan, man. They're my demon. Like, you give me an opiate and I'm off to the races. You give me like a kilo of crack and I'll be like, whatever. Give me whatever, I don't care. But you put an opiate in my body and I'm going to seek more of them immediately, and I will get them, and it will be a downward spiral to hell and back again, which I'm not willing to take. So she knows this, and I got no options at that point. So I'm desperate, and I'm literally starting to lose my mind because I haven't slept more than 30 minutes max. Like my routine was literally this: I would try to go to bed when I was so exhausted that I couldn't take it anymore. And like I said, it wouldn't kick in for like 5 minutes of pain, so I would doze off. Immediately, 5 minutes, 30 minutes later, I would wake up in intense pain. I would go right over to my dresser over there. I'd apply lidocaine, blue goo, which honestly I bought because it was the only thing left I hadn't tried, and it was the one thing that actually did give me some relief, which makes another crazy thing, because there's like nothing even in it that should work, but it damn works. Emu oil. I had prescription, Voltaren or whatever the heck that stuff is, name brand of that. No advertisement on that because it's crap. It's like ibuprofen in a cream. I still have the tube up there. It's unused from 3 years ago. It don't work for shit. I had lidocaine prescribed cream and patches. I had like literally 10 different things I would slather onto from here to my fingertips, a greasy mess, get back into the bed if I could. And while doing this, I would pound down 2 gabapentins, or 3 or 4, a bunch of kratom, and hard seltzer, fire it all down to the point where I was oblivious, hopefully, get back into bed, and I'd maybe get an hour before it broke through that even. So, at this point, I'm literally now no sleep, extreme exhaustion, and intense pain 24/7. The chainsaw was looking great, and the bullet was looking better, no joke. My doctor had no answers. I was praying, but man, the Lord gave me enough breaks in life. I deserved one, right? So I did what I do best, and I went online, and I was like, there's got to be something, man, because these bodybuilders, I know, and I've worked out with these guys, and I've lived with professional athletes, worked with them, who get injured all the time, and they recover way too quick for it to just be natural. And I knew this, but I was out of the game because, like I said, I was addicted to drugs, and I just got out of prison, so now I was sober, but out of the circles, right, and out of the mix. And I didn't really have a knowledge at that point of peptides because they were new to emerge. Bodybuilders have been using them in professional athletes for like 2 decades going back. But I was a bulker guy. I really didn't care about that kind of stuff. So I did my research. I found a peptide, which a peptide, if you don't know, is just amino acids, proteins, the building blocks of proteins chained together. And when they are in certain sequences and you consume them, they act as signalers and messengers, as a hormone might, or a insulin, or whatever. They're literal natural messengers and signalers and amazing things in your body. Like, literally, there's a peptide that can do almost anything. There's peptides that can cure cancer, no joke, certain types. There's peptide, I mean, it boggles your mind. And when I presented all the research to my physician, who was cool as all hell, I miss her so much, because we had a running deal that she would test my test levels, my IGF levels, my HGH levels, and get insurance to cover it as long as I would let her do whatever test she wanted to do. It was like a give-take thing. She was the coolest doctor I've ever had, man. I miss her a lot. So shout out Dr. Liz. I shouldn't even say that because of that previous thing, but I didn't say your last name. You're awesome. And if you get in trouble for this, I will literally make sure that whoever gets you in trouble pays for it dearly. Because you're worth that. Like, we need more doctors like that. Who are open, honest, and willing to work with their patients, because that's what a doctor should do. Leave it at that. So, and I was traveling out of town to see this lady because she was that legit and like just a real person, right? Wicked hippie. And I presented her with the research because I was looking at BPC157, which naturally is produced in your gut. Everybody actually produces it. It's a natural body peptide. Your body produces this amino acid, and it's what protects your stomach from the harsh acids and everything. So someone, a genius of who knows, I don't know actually who came about figuring this out, but they are a literal genius and godsend, realized, well, maybe this amino acid chain that can protect your intestines from hydrochloric acid, almost, well, literally, and all this other harsh stuff, maybe it can do other things. And lo and behold, at this point in time, the last time I checked was almost a year ago, there was almost like 500 different medical studies done at that time on this substance, and it can do everything from mental health things, like they gave it to people who were addicted to drugs or were given prescription drugs, and they became tolerant. If they were given BPC157 orally, which is one of the only ones that can be taken orally because it's very robust, obviously where it comes from gives it that robustness, or it needs to be that robust, and it literally can return a tolerant brain back to the initial point of no tolerance. So you can basically drop people back down to their initial dosage of a narcotic, or Adderall, I think was the thing they used in the study that I saw, and reduce their risk and their consumption of this stuff, and prolong the working time and length of time that this pharmaceutical is helpful for the person, which is big. Another thing, dental. It can be used to fix, something periodontal, something, I don't know. But basically, literally, they inject it in your gums. It can heal certain ailments of the gums, right? Because that's the best mode of taking it, is injection very close to wherever the problem is. Because this stuff will literally seek out whatever damage it finds in the body and heal it. The first study of it's probably the most amazing. I don't know why I didn't start with this, but originally the first study that they did with this stuff, they tested it on rats, and what they did was they cut the Achilles tendon of rats, literally sliced it in half. Then they injected BPC157 into that area, site injection. Okay, those Achilles tendons of those rats literally healed themselves. They were severed, surgically scalpeled, sliced in half. healed themselves because of BPC157. Later on, here's our great government in action. So because it's a natural substance, but they don't take the whole chain of it, the peptide. They only took the part that is functioning, right? So it's a portion of the whole thing, but it's naturally produced in your body, and it's a natural thing made of amino acids, and because of that, you can't really patent it and make money off that. So it's don't make a money. It's not worth it, even if it fixes and heals the thing that's wrong with you instead of just masking it and keeping you on meds your whole life, which is the game. So healed thing, right? I was sold at that point back then, and that was when that's before I even got the real bad injuries. I was just doing my typical what's new and cool in the world of performance enhancing substances, right? But I remembered that, and the other one I was looking at was TB500, which is part of a greater, once again, peptide chain of amino acids produced in your body, typically in your, I think, thyroid. Yeah, thyroid. And it also has very, very significant healing properties, but it's more systemic. So, whereas BPC157 is very site local, okay? You want to get it as close to wherever you have the problem, because it'll basically, and this is not confirmed by scientific research, but basically if you read through all the scientific research, you can deduce very easily, and if you've used it, that wherever you inject it, that peptide basically travels to a site of inflammation or damage in your body. So if you have, say, like me, 7 different things wrong with you, you're going to be wanting to hit it everywhere, because it'll go to wherever it is and it'll start working there. It ain't going to just go everywhere. Whereas TB500, you can inject it anywhere and it'll work throughout the body. Another one was thymosin beta A, I think, or 1, which is the same thyroid releasing peptide, but just a different part of it. And it also is a healing thing. But TB500 is generally known and accepted one. I used it, but honestly, compared to BPC157, TB500 is trash. Maybe the TB500 I got wasn't the greatest, but then again, why would the BPC be so good when that's much more difficult to produce, even though it's more robust of a peptide? A lot of talk here, sorry, but it's an in-depth thing. So those are 2 best known healing peptides, right? You have one that works throughout the entire body, so it'd be good for something like if you have a major injury, like a torn shoulder muscle, or like, say, a spinal injury or something. And it's also originally known for another crazy thing. It was going to be put on every emergency vehicle when it first was discovered, its properties, because if you administer TB500 injection to somebody who has just experienced a cardiac arrest event, or basically a heart attack, and you inject them with TB500 within a certain frame of time, the people typically will come out of that with no long-term heart damage, which is insane, and nobody knows about this stuff, because once again, how does that help them make money if you heal the person's problems? Now, my doctor knows me, and like I said, she was a hippie, and she knew the insanity of my situation. She was very, very worried about me, obviously, and she was willing to prescribe me narcotic pain meds, which I wanted very much, but I knew was horrible because of the severity of the situation. Thankfully, we didn't go that route. I brought her what I had on the research. She's like, all right, let me see what you got. She did her own on her laptop. We had a discussion. She came back after like an hour. I'm sitting there waiting, and usually, like, that's not her. She comes back like excited and flabbergasted, and she says, how have I never heard of this stuff? She's like, there's research paper after research paper clinical testing after clinical testing, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, if you realize it's mostly European stuff and, you know, whatever. Because here it won't make any money. She's like, I honestly am so pissed right now at the system. She's like, this is ridiculous. Like, she really was angry at just the whole way that the medical field works in the United States. So she's like, well, honestly, at this point, it can't make you any worse. And from what I'm reading, it only could do better for you based off of everything I found thus far. I've not seen one side effect even that could be taken from this. And at this point, there was a doctor, I think he was out of Philadelphia, who was doing site surgery with BPC157. So the person had something wrong with them internally. He would literally incise their skin, get right down to wherever it was messed up, inject BPC157, and this was controversial, and he was risking it to do this, but he was a pioneer. I mean, the only one I've ever seen. He was having the stuff made in a compounding pharmacy that he found, and I would do the same if I was a doctor, or my doctor was willing to risk her medical license, which she wasn't, and I knew I could get it. And her question wasn't, her response wasn't, don't do it, or we should sit on this or anything. She was more, literally this is what she said to me: how much do you trust your source? Do you think you're really going to get that, or do you think it could be something else? I said, listen, it could end up being HGH, because sometimes that'll happen, because it's more available and it's cheaper and it's easier to produce and blah blah blah, store and all that stuff. So that's a risk with it, but you can pretty much tell what it is, and HGH ain't gonna hurt you. And I like HGH, honestly, but I don't want to pay for BPC and get HGH, obviously, but I trust my sources. So I order a kit. No joke. Okay, I've been suffering now at this point for about probably 3 months. I'm literally, every day that shotgun is looking better and better. Or that chainsaw. No joke, man. That's how insane I was over. Like, it hurt that bad, constantly that bad. Suffering, literal suffering. And I took my dosages. I started off with 250 micrograms, injected in several points, but that was the total dosage. And I did that 3 times a day. And I did it in my hand, both hands, like typically here, or on this side. I would hit my wrists and all the way up to my elbow with just little boop boop boops, right? Little tiny insulin needles. They're very short, very thin. You don't even feel it. Just getting in the meat, not into a vein. Not that it'll hurt you, but you could have problems with that. So, needless to say, I went from misery, and for 3 months now, I'm not sleeping more than 30 minutes, and not getting 1 minute of rest or break from intense wanting to kill myself pain, which I've experienced a lot of pain in my life, and this was the worst of it ever. Probably because it was so constant, honestly, and very intense, right? So, first day, nothing really. Within 3 days, though, of doing this, and I would do 250 micrograms 3 times a day, probably 30 injections total, maybe 15 on each side of each arm. And I bought a kit, which is 10 vials, and there were 5, I believe there were 5s. I think there were 5 milligrams, but they might have been 10s, I'm not sure. Either way, 3 days in, the pain started receding from my fingertips backwards this way, noticeably. And I thought it might have just been placebo or like wishful thinking. But by day 5, the pain had gone away of the normal pain, like when I was standing and doing stuff. Now, when I laid down, I actually got 3 hours in before I got pain. I think it was the 5th day. By day 7 of doing this, not only did I not have any pain, but I slept a full night for the first time in months. Like 16 hours almost, because I was so exhausted. When I woke up, I didn't know what, like I was praying and thanking God. I was glorifying God in the highest right then. because whether the BPC did it or not, that was a miracle that God put that thing into existence and that I found it. Because I would be meeting him, or probably Satan, because I was going to kill myself, literally. Shouldn't be even saying this on there. It's going to ban, but I don't give a shit. It's the truth. So, week, pain's gone. I sleep for the first time in months. Probably 16 hours. It was awesome. And then, this is going to be, alright, this is probably the most ban-worthy part of the video. I told you, I haven't had feeling in my fingers in that entire time except for intense pain. I can't feel nothing with these, and no dexterity, nothing. I literally look at the girl at the end of the time like, yo, I think I have feeling back in my fingers. This is now like day, I don't know, we're on like 9 or something. I'm like, boom, I go at it, I'm like, holy shit, I can feel, again, I felt a woman's vagina for the first time in 3 months, for the first time in 3 months. That was like being a 12-year-old again. It was amazing. I was like, wetness. I can feel everything. This is great. And then we had sex for probably 12 hours. And I went straight to my doctor's office appointment the next week. And she literally was like, what do you want? I was like, BPC157. She's like, okay, either you're the best actor in hiding the pain better than anyone I've ever seen in my life. This is a miracle. Or that shit is the most insane healing thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, I honestly have never seen anyone improve this quickly and from this many different things and that severity ever. I don't think I've ever even heard of it. She said, I don't believe in God. I said, well, I do. Either way, it doesn't matter. What does matter is the fact that after that, I couldn't stop working, so I'm working through this whole thing, so I'm still damaging as I'm healing, I'm damaging still, so it's like a, process. So I finished my kit after 3 weeks, whatever, and I'm almost back to